Woo!
I should put my brakes on.
If you would prefer this in written format, I've actually made 3 blog posts about this already, and I'm really proud of it, so check that out.
Because I like soft things. Give me magic, I'm happy.
Hello, my beautiful bookish people. It's been a little bit because I had a couple of doctor's appointments and stuff, and
I haven't had energy in a long time.
and today's the first day I felt like I had enough energy to put up a tripod and produce a video. So, in case this happens again, if you want, you can follow my blog and my Twitter. That's where I stay most up to date, since apparently now, some days, I can't even pick up a tripod because I don't have enough strength. Fun times! I'll probably do a storytime video on my second channel. I'll also link that below once I get up the energy to do that as well, to kind of explain what's been going on more in my personal life. But today I am here to talk to you about my TBR for September, because in case you haven't seen my last video, which I don't know how you haven't by now, but I am creating and co-hosting the Autumn Essentials Readathon in September, which will hopefully become an annual thing. And I'm also participating in another readathon that I found out about through How to Train Your Gavin, which I can't remember the name of right now, but I'll probably put something up on screen. Anyways, let's get into some suggested things for Team Pumpkin Spice Cozy Sweater and boxed wine. If you would prefer this in written format, I've actually made 3 blog posts about this already, and I'm really proud of it, so check that out. For Team Pumpkin Spice, for the Pumpkin Spice prompt, I will be reading, actually I've already read it, because I couldn't wait any longer because it was September 1st and I already had the audiobook for this, Winnie-the-Pooh by A.A. Milne. Well, the collected stories of Winnie-the-Pooh by A.A. Milne. Does anyone care what the full title of this book is? Because everybody ubiquitously knows Winnie-the-Pooh, I feel like. Anyways, there's a full unabridged cast recording including Stephen Fry, Judi Dench, Joffrey Palmer, Jane Horrocks, and Michael Williams, and it is fantastic. When I was a very small child, my grandmother gifted this to me in written and audiobook format, because at that point I couldn't read yet, but I could kind of read along with the pretty pictures in the book. And this series is just a huge nostalgia trip for me. And it would probably also count for the prompts such as comfort food, wild card, stay warm, and quick bread. So yeah, I'm really glad that I reread Winnie-the-Pooh already. For Jack-o'-lantern, I'll be reading The Train to Impossible Places by P.G. Bell. This book is the one that counts for a Touch of Whimsy readathon. That's the note I needed earlier for myself. Anyways, I've never read it, but Gavin usually makes really good middle grade book recommendations for stuff that I like anyways, and I'm hoping that this is going to be something that I would want to call a middle grade classic, and I'm just really excited to read it. I don't know a whole lot about it, but the cover looks really cute. And it sounds like a really cool premise. It's a train that goes to impossible places. Is it going to be like The Phantom Tollbooth, one of my favorite books ever? Because nonsense world and life lessons and fun stuff. I don't know. I need to read it already. For comfort food, I will be sharing my pumpkin spice bread recipe, which I actually need to finalize and type up, because basically I'm taking my grandmother's, or is it my great-grandmother's? Anyways, the banana bread recipe that's been in my family for forever, I kind of did an adjustment on that where I substitute pumpkin for banana, and then instead of vanilla, I add in the warm fall spices, and I'm still dialing in that spice mix. You could, of course, just use pumpkin pie spice or one of the pre-made fall spice mixes. That's fine.
But I'm trying to really dial in the flavor that I want with the individual spices. I'm kind of going on a rant here now, and I need to just stop, and I'll get back to you on that one later.
For folktale or folk music, I will probably be rereading Short and Shivery by Robert D. Sansucci. This is another book that while I was, I think, in middle school, that my grandmother also gave me on books on cassette. And that cassette set has never been reproduced in digital form, at least not through normal legal measures. You can, of course, take your own audio cassettes and transfer them to digital because you own the right to do that, as long as you're not distributing it. Anyways, I'm sad that I can't get this as a digital copy for the audio version because the narration for TBR was awesome and intense, and I miss it. But I instead have acquired an ebook copy of this, so I guess I'll have to narrate it myself. Anyways, if anyone has found a narration of this book and wants to let me know about it, please do, because I always love spooky stories read to me by another person. I don't know why, it just gives me old storytime feels, and especially for folk tales, that's how they were passed down anyways. Like, moving on. For Crisp Air, I'll finally be completing The Snowy Road and Other Stories, which I actually have on my bookshelf here because I originally bought this book while I was in undergrad, and I believe, if my memory serves me correct, this covers a lot of literature written in Korea during 1910 to 1945-ish. It's during the Japanese occupation, and during the Japanese occupation, a lot of forms of writing were censored, and these stories reflect that censorship and are just fun fictional tales, I hope. It's been forever since I've read any of this book, and I think I only read 2 stories out of it as required class reading back in the day, so I'm really excited to give this book another try. And for Stay Warm, I will definitely be fixing myself a warm beverage, which will show up in a vlog post probably, because I have no idea what I'm making for that yet. I'll find out when I get there. And for pumpkins, I could read The Making of a Small Town Beauty King by Savvy Lizer. I think I'm saying your name right, Savvy. I'm sorry if I'm not. I found out about Savvy through YouTube and Book Twitter, and I've never read any of her works, but I saw this last year and I was like, oh my god, I have to pick it up. It has a pumpkin on it. That's all I need to know. And I've been saving it specifically for this readathon for an entire year. So I really hope I get around to it finally. And lastly, we have the quick bread prompt. And let's be real, I'm totally eating a slice of my pumpkin spice bread from earlier for this. Now let's get into some cozy sweater prompts. For the cozy sweater prompt, I have already read Winnie-the-Pooh. I talked about this earlier. I'm not going to reiterate that now. For classic cardigan, I've chosen The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster, and now that I think about it, I should probably switch my prompts here for having Winnie-the-Pooh for the children's classic and having The Phantom Tollbooth as a middle grade classic, but let's move on from that. This is another book that was gifted to me by my grandmother back in the day. I think I actually have a copy right here. Yeah, I totally do. Let's get that out. And this is, I've already said, it's one of my all-time favorite books. It is glorious. I have an audio copy of this still. I believe I originally had it on CD, and I did back in the day rip it to digital, so I still have a copy of that. And I also bought a physical copy to mark up. I think I also had a paperback copy way back in the day, but I have no idea where that's at now. Literally no clue. I know that it got beaten up because I'm really hard on paperbacks, but if you have not read this book, you absolutely need to. It follows the story of Milo, a middle grade boy who's bored by school and just bored by a lot of stuff. And all of a sudden, this magical toll booth with this little toy car that he can fit in just shows up in his room one day, and he goes through this portal into this different nonsense world. And while he travels through this nonsense world, he meets a lot of interesting characters and learns a lot of valuable life lessons. And if you're looking for a silly read that comes with real life takeaways, I'd highly recommend picking this book up. For Sweater Shaver, I would recommend Disfigured on Fairy Tales, Disability, and Making Space by Amanda Leduc. I don't know how to say this name. Anyways, I can't remember who recommended this book to me in the first place, but I think it's supposed to be about how fairy tales have shaped our perspectives on disabilities and how a world where disabilities are no longer seen as an impediment would be better. And having recently become more disabled, you can't really see it in frame, but I'm currently sitting in a rollator. Anyways, having recently become more disabled than I previously have been, I'm really excited to pick this book up and see this interpretation. For Sweater Vest, I've picked Short and Shivery again. I've already talked about that. I'm gonna move on. For Fuzzy Sweater, I'll probably be curling up under a plush blanket along with a stuffed plushie as a pillow.
Because I like soft things.
For Granny Sweater, I'm recycling the Phantom Toll Booth. And for Sparkly Sweater, I'm really hoping that I get around to finally reading Middle Game by Shannon McGuire. I have really been enjoying the Wayward Children series by her this year, and I've heard so many good things about this book. I've also heard a little bit of mixed reviews about it, but The Wild Sasha over on her channel has highly been recommending it to me, so I feel like I've got to read it. All I know for sure is that there are magical shenanigans at godlike proportions, and it involves a set of fraternal twins somehow. It's good enough for me.
Give me magic, I'm happy.
And lastly, for Cornucopia Sweater, I'm recycling the Phantom Toll Booth again. Oh, and I don't think I've been talking about wildcards for any of these just yet. I'm very much a mood reader. Wildcard will just be whatever I feel like reading at the time. Now, lastly, to get to Team Boxed Wine prompts. For Chardonnay, I've really been craving a reread of 1984 by George Orwell. If you somehow don't know what this is, it is a very good political satire that involves language censorship and a lot of other things. It's kind of scary how well some things that are currently happening in the world are predicted in this book. Very interesting to see that coming to life. And part of me wonders if rereading it in 2020 will make me notice anything else that I didn't pick up in my first read through. Because we're having a year. And for Moscato, I will be reading The Snowy Road and other stories. I've already talked about that, so let's move on to Pinot Grigio, where I will be rereading With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. If somehow you've been on my channel and haven't heard me talk about Elizabeth Acevedo yet, she is a fantastic author. Her other two books are written in verse, but this one is not. It's still very evocative. You still see things through the character's eyes. It's beautifully written. All of her books are beautifully written. Sometimes I am just not in the mood for verse, which her other 2 books are. I just said that. Normally I'm not a contemporary fan, but this turned me on to contemporary big time. And the cover is beautiful. The hardback edition, when you take the cover off, is beautiful underneath. Like, whoever designed this cover for both the dust jacket and the actual cover, kudos to them. I need more of that in my collection. It's so cool. And some of the recipes that are listed in this book, I really want to try, or just the food that's talked about, because you don't always get full recipes in this one. Though, if you've seen the post about strawberry milk that is included at the beginning of one of these chapters, the snark in it is wonderful. Anyways, this story is about a teen, single, young mother trying to raise her daughter, get a job in the culinary industry, and how she's finishing high school, how she's interacting with her family, and how she's just trying to do everything. And it is just a really cool story. I highly recommend it. And for Rosé, guess what book I picked? I love the Phantom Tollbooth and I really want to read it this month. Moving on, for White Zinfandel, Zinfandel is a blah 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 blah. Anyways, for that I'll be reading The Black Prism, which I also have in here, which is currently covered up. I've kind of already started it last month, but I really want to finish it because now that I have the whole series, I want to binge read it. But also, I've been getting a lot of headaches recently, so it's been hard to read. So I've actually been listening to this via an audio copy from my library while multitasking and doing other things. And I recommend this copy in ebook, physical book, or audiobook. All of the productions of this seem pretty good so far. For a few words to sum up this book: elemental magic based on sunlight. We have fat character representation as a main character, and the verbiage around that evokes a lot of middle school and high school memories. I'm gonna put it that way. And it's all set in a raw, very problematic world. Oh, and there's socio-political intrigue, because apparently for Team Boxed Wine, that's what I need in my life with 1984 in this book. For Cabernet Sauvignon, I will be working on editing a book for my author friend Iggy, and there are many sexy vampires involved. And I really need to get around to editing that already. It's been sitting on my desktop for a little bit now. I'm gonna get to it, I swear. And for Sangria, I'm really hoping my hold on All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson finally comes through. I've been waitlisted for this audiobook for ages, and when I checked it earlier today, it said it still had a 4-week wait, which I'm hoping will pop before the end of September. Anyways, I've gathered several personal recommendations for this so far. Like, I've had several people tell me, you need to read this book, and it wasn't just by watching Booktube, it was by people telling me, read it. And from what I've gathered, it's a very powerful memoir read by the author about growing up queer in an extremely bigoted and hostile community. And having grown up in the Bible Belt myself, I am very interested to see this. I have a feeling I'm going to be able to relate.
Even though I technically didn't come out even to myself until I was most of the way through college. Yep, that's a thing. Repressed things. Let's not do that to people, please.
And lastly, for Chianti, I'm recycling The Snowy Road and Other Stories because snow. And that's my TBR for this month. I know I said I'll be reading for a lot of these prompts. I have no idea if these are the things I'll actually be reading because I stink at sticking to a TBR. Also, I have no idea how many books I'm going to get to this month. I'm kind of giving myself some space this month to just read at a pace that I feel like, because I go through phases where all I want to do is game, or all I want to do is watch television, or all I want to do is read. And right now, I'm kind of in a cross in between all three. That's how, like, in 1 month, I'll read like somewhere in between 20 and 40 books, and then the next month you'll see maybe 3. So we'll see how this month goes. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you've made it this far, leave me a purple heart emoji down in the comments and tell me what book you are most looking forward to reading this month. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!